Good evening. Once again, we return to the story of Caius, Spell Sword, Dunmer, Eternal Champion, Agent of the Emperor, currently Initiate of the Blades. Now, if memory serves, we just finished a little bit of a side journey into these ruins, and we are on our way to Margan. No, sorry, it was Gnaar Mok. It was to deal with the threatening. So we will finish that, and then we will head towards our eastern destinations, as was the original plan.
Do you take me for a fool?
I forgot. That is how you rob someone, not how you talk to them. Alright, I do remember we were on the run from something. I just don't remember what. And unfortunately, on our way back, we'll need to do another alchemy run. Unfortunately, between the storms and just my general difficulty navigating between the Foyada and the main map, I'll probably have some difficulty getting to my destination. But we'll do our best with what we've got. And of course, there is a target of opportunity near Balmora to get another Daedric weapon, seeing as we have the space for them. But it won't be a major effort. I see. Alright, not too crazy about wit pain. I'm mildly curious if this story of not being able to, like having a 0% chance of success is true. Oh, interesting. Alright, I'm gonna have to keep that in mind. And looks like we have eyes on the rest of the world. So best for me is if I can go west. For now, I'm just going to enjoy practicing my spells. Alright, we'll follow anything that resembles a path for now. Try and get out of the storm as soon as we can. And just taking the opportunities where I can to practice whatever spells are available. Alright, now this isn't much of a path either. But at least we're above the storm. I seem to remember there were signs at some point. But for now, we'll just climb over the mountains and see what we can do. Ah, here we go. If memory serves, I've actually been to this spot before. If we have been here, I definitely didn't get all of the materials. Alright. So I don't want to go to Margan, I want to go to Gnaar Mok. I think that's probably where that's where my problem started. So I'm gonna guess we probably can't just go directly through the fort. I'm almost certain I've been inside here.
Go ahead. Speak freely, friend.
There's not really much for me to look at up here, unfortunately. I can try and wait out the storm, but I don't know if that really gets me anything. Sorry, I just need to remove my jacket. It's getting a little warm here. Alright, I think the best call is to do whatever, we'll follow whatever paths we can that go to the most logical locations, which at the moment would be ideally west, and then relative to wherever we are now, either north or south. Of course, love to rest in the fort, but I don't think they have any inn. We're getting close to capacity. I probably should have sold off some of the items at the fort. But we'll make do with what we've got. Again, once we take care of our friend, we'll be back to Balmora, and we'll be able to sell off everything that we've just gotten. Now, where was this? Alderaan. Alright, I'm probably not that far from where I started this journey then. But Alderaan will have a Mage's Guild and a Fighter's Guild that I can sell some of these items at. We'll also have an inn where I can rest.
Tidings, citizen.
Alright, let's see. Definitely some of these items will be much more than he can afford. But at least some of the weightier ones we can get some kind of a return on. Alright. That at least gives me some room for the, for any crafting materials I want to get. Now here's one thing I'm a little curious about. I'm gonna save before I do this.
I'm ready for anything. Go ahead.
I was under the impression that the Fighters Guild gave you a place to rest. This may not be true. Well, I don't seem to have any kind of bounty, so... Now, in the worst case scenario, I am able to travel to Gnaar Mok. I'm able to travel it using the Silt Strider, but I would prefer not to. simply because it would be nice to explore the territory. Everywhere I can use the fast travel options, but it doesn't necessarily give me anything. Not sure this is the way I came in, but I'll work with it. Not the cleanest kill or encounter that I've had, but benefit, all of these are directly west, and it looks like we're heading outside of the Foyada. So with any luck, the scenery will be a little more appealing. The scenery will be a little more appealing, and we'll be well on our way to dealing with the bully. Right, I'm happy that didn't result in any blight. Alright, I believe we have encountered this gentleman before.
Damned witches!
So I know the one thing I don't really need is more crush weed, but materials are materials. They can be turned into things I can sell. Black hot plate, you say? All right. fatigue potion for this, though. I think I need to keep some of the. I know some of these I can sell. I don't remember which ones, though, so. We'll enjoy the scenery while we rest up. Well, that's a shame. Ah, I now see the problem. Now, I could have sworn I had a spell for blight. I might be wrong, though. At which point I'm going to have to reload. I am disappointed in myself that I need to do this, but I am going to be reloading. I should have thought about that. Sorry. And we've crashed. I would have done the autosave, but that would have been before the rest, so. Well, we'll give it a try, but I think I'll have the blight in that case. Yes. Might help if I rested, though.
Nice to see you, friend.
I'm ready for anything. Go ahead.
Well met, Outlander. What is it?
Try not to waste too much time on picking up materials, but I do want to make sure that I at least take some of the low-hanging fruit. archery skill to level up. It certainly hasn't been going up while each time I use it. Oh, I think I've really gone the wrong way here. It's tempting to check out, though. Laden Ancestral Tomb. Well, you know what? As a distraction from a cliff racer, why not? I don't even know what you are, but you're terrifying. Alright, it's definitely... No, this is a vampire. Almost certainly. Yep. I may not wind up keeping any of this for now. Shrine to Veloth. So as much as I would prefer to use the Daedric axe, in this particular case, I don't really want to contract vampirism, and these things are clearly very tough. I'm a little worried when it labels itself trap.
Trap by Anonymous. I saw the gold and I took it. A different man may not have. I know that. And from time to time, I think back on the hour when I saw the gold and took it. You see, I was hungry. Isn't it ironic? I don't remember much else about that night but the gold and the hunger. I don't remember the name of the tavern or even the village, but I believe it was somewhere in southern Radenfell. Can't really be certain. For some time I sat dumbly in my chair, my mind occupied with nothing but the pain in my stomach. If you've never been truly hungry from days of no food, you can't know what that's like. You can't concentrate on anything. It wasn't until a figure to my left got up from the table to get a drink and left a stack of gold marks behind that I snapped to awareness. From this moment on, my memory is crystalline. My eyes to the gold, my eyes to the stranger's back, walking calmly towards the barmaid. My hand to the gold in my pocket. I'm up from the table and out the door. Just for a moment I look back. The stranger has turned to look my way. He wears a hood, but I can feel his eyes meet mine. I swear, I can scent a smile. Out in the street and behind some barrels, I crouched down, waiting for my pursuer. One benefit of a lifetime of running from guards, I know how to disappear for nearly an hour. For nearly an hour, I waited there, suffering even more from hunger. You see, I was awake now, and had the means to buy myself a feast. This knowledge tortured me. When I finally got to my feet, I very nearly fainted. I had only enough energy to walk to the other edge of the village to a rundown tavern before collapsing at a table. I think I must have fallen unconscious for a moment before I heard the barmaid's voice. "Can I get you something to eat, Sarah?" I gorged myself on roasts and pies and a huge frothing mug of grief. As the fog of the near-fatal starvation began to lift, I looked up from my plate to see a gold-masked stranger looking at me, his visage glowing by the blinding light of the moon through the window. He wore black leather armor and was a different physique and size from the man that I had burgled, but I could tell he knew. I paid for my meal quickly and left. I skirted the edge of the village, through a tiled central courtyard surrounded by squalid peasants' cottages. There was not a light shining from any window or door. No one was on the streets. I could find no place to hide. So I took the road out of town, heading for the wilderness. Hunger had pushed me on in the days before, but now I felt what I imagined to be the whip of guilt, or perhaps, even then, it was fear. I failed twice rushing down the dark path, unused to the slopes and pebbled texture. The sounds of animal life, which I had numbed to, were very suddenly loud in my ears, and there was something else out there in the night, something chasing me. On the side of the road there was a low wall. I had scrambled over it and hid. I knew enough about concealment to pick a spot where the bulwarks sunk slightly, so even if someone saw the outline of my figure, he would have to assume it to be part of the wall. It wasn't long before I heard the sound of running footsteps, for more than one person passed me by and then stop. There was a moment of whispered conversation, and one of the people ran back on the path toward the village. Then silence. After a few more minutes, I peered out from behind the wall. A female figure in a dun gown, wimple, and veil stood in the road. On the other end of the road, blocking the way back to town, was a knight coated in dark mail. I could see neither of their faces. For a moment, I froze, unsure of whether either or both had seen me. "Run," said the woman in a dead voice. The hill behind me was too steep, so I leapt over the wall and across the road in 2 bounds. Into the night forest I ran, the maddening jingle of the accursed gold in my pocket. I knew I was making so much noise my pursuers could not help but hear me, but now I cared more about putting distance between us than in stealth. Clouds of ash filtered through the moonlight, but I still knew that it was too bright to hide. I ran and ran until I felt all my blood pumping in my head and heart, begging me to stop. I was at the edge of the wood, on the other side of the shallow stream from a vast crumbling house encircled by a rail fence. Behind me, running footfall in the broken dusty earth. To the south, downstream, a distinct sodden splashing of someone moving nearer. There was no choice. I half jumped and half fell into the mud and dragged myself up the bank on the other side. I rolled under the fence and ran through the open field toward the house. Jerking my head round, I saw 7 shadowy figures by the fence posts. The cloaked man I had robbed, the man in the gold mask, the veiled woman, the dark knight, 3 others too who had pursued me, and I had never seen. And I thought I was the stealthy one. The moon was entirely hidden in a swarm of ash. Only the stars offered their meager illumination as I reached the open door of the ruin. I slammed and bolted the door behind me, but I knew there would be no protection for very long. As I looked about the ravaged interior of broken furniture, I searched for someone to hide. I think it's somewhere to hide. A corner, a niche where if I stayed very still, no one would see me. A splintered table lying against the wall looked perfect for my purposes. I crawled under it and jumped when something moved and I heard a frightened old man's voice. "Who's there?" "It's all right," I whispered. "I'm not one of them." His puckered, gnarled hand reached out from the shadow and gripped my arm. Instantly, I felt sleep fall upon me, resist it as I might. The old man's horrible face, the face of the hungry dead, emerged as the moon came out and shone through the broken window. His talons still gripping me, I fell back, smelling his death surround me. The table was thrown back. There stood 7 hunters and a dozen more. No, hunters they weren't. They were harriers who had chased me out of every hiding place, expertly pushing me to the lair of the real predator. He was weak with age. The old man was not as good at the chase as he once was, a blunt killing machine. "Please," I said. It was all I could muster. Having enjoyed the sport I offered, he granted me mercy of sorts. I was not bled dry. I was not cursed by being made one of them, the burn. I was kept with the others, most of us mad with fear, to be aged and tasted at the vampire's whim. We are called cattle. I lost all hope months ago of ever leaving the dank cellar where they keep us. Even if this note finds its way to the outside world, I cannot give enough information about my whereabouts to be rescued, even if some champion were able to defeat the bloodsuckers. I only write this to keep my own sanity and to warn others. There's something worse than being hungry, being food.
Figured I could at least get one. Of course, I'm out of magic now, so it's going to be a little harder to heal. Alright, well. Doesn't seem like there's much else for me to do in this. So I can rest if I really want, but at this point I think I should just make my way out. Yes. I almost forgot there was a reason why we ran in there. All right, let's see if we can get back on track. I don't think this is the way I was going, but this might still give me a chance. Maybe not. I wonder if it's as simple as this. I certainly don't regret the detour, I just want to make sure that I'm actually able to hit my target. Yes, and this does look like the right path. Here I'm a little more self-conscious of catching disease, so I'm saving a bit more frequently so we don't have to do this journey again. I think that may just be a stone. I want to make sure it's not something I can pick up. Alright, that was a welcome development. Again, I want to make sure I didn't contract any disease before I save, otherwise that really will create a problem. Alright, first thing. Ah, yes, alright. Nieces is not exactly where I want to go. Actually, you know what? This is probably the better call. Caldera and Belmore are also places I don't exactly want to be, but they're a little closer. At least in terms of the direction the road's going. These may not be violent.
Some hostile mud crabs dragged off with one of my guar. There's a pair of them that's been hunting my guar. Just the other day they killed one and dragged it off. They usually come from the coast to the southwest. If this keeps up, I might have to sell what I've still got and move back to Ter. It's also called Dress since it's the home of house dress. Too hot for me though. It's practically an Argonia.
Alright, let's deal with the menace to the southwest then. So at this point, if I can, I'd prefer to go south, but not at the expense of seeing something interesting. Though I think in general this is the wrong. Well, no, we might still be able to get something out of this. I'm also fairly certain I've been here before. So we'll try to find the coast, we'll try to find Gnaar Mok, and then we'll try and find the crabs. And I was almost certain I'd already been here, but I can't resist the urge. Definitely looks familiar, but that might just be because of similar layout.
There is no escape.
No, never mind. I need to find a fast way to heal. Alright, this is gonna be a little more practice with the axe.
Now you die!
Not really a lot of things worth it on them, but we'll work with what we've been given. Alright, and we do need to drop some things off, so I might as well do the bone mold. Nice to sell, but obviously not critical. Alright, I'm not quite ready to go to the upper level yet. Let's see what else we've got here. Maybe try and be a little more, a little more conservative with my stamina, though. There's clearly someone behind this door. Oh, interesting. Oh, we still have apprentice lockpicks. That was unexpected. The rest of this I don't have much use for, but I might as well try and get whatever I can out of the clothing. Wouldn't have expected to be encumbered by that, but probably should have kept an eye on that claymore. I'm not 100% sure why I picked that up in the first place. Alright, and I believe... no, maybe not. It's a lot larger than I thought it would be.
You will die.
So if I wanted to restore my magicka, there's an argument for me to rest here. Not quite sure if it's worth it, though.
The Anand paraphrased. The first ones were brothers, Anu and Padome. They came into the void, and time began. As Anu and Padome wandered the void, the interplay of light and darkness created Gnaar. Both Anu and Padome were amazed and delighted with her appearance, but she loved Anu, and Padome retreated from them in bitterness. Gnaar became pregnant, but before she gave birth, Padome returned, professing his love for Gnaar. She told him that she only loved Anu, and Padome beat her in rage. Anu returned, fought Padome, and cast him outside in time. Gnaar gave birth to creation, but died from her injuries soon after. Anu, grieving, hid himself in the sun and slept. Meanwhile, life sprang up on the 12 worlds of creation and flourished. After many ages, Padome was able to return to time. He saw creation and hated it. He swung his sword, shattering the 12 worlds in their alignment. Anu awoke and fought Padome again. The long and furious battle ended with Anu the victor. He cast aside the body of his brother, who he believed was dead, and attempted to save creation by forming the remnants of 12 worlds into one, Nirn, the world of Tamriel. As he was doing so, Padome struck him through the chest with one last blow. Anu grappled with his brother and pulled them both outside time forever. The blood of Padome became the Daedra, the blood of Anu became the stars. The mingled blood of both became the Aedra, hence their capacity for good and evil, and their greater affinity for the earthly affairs than Daedra, who have no connection to creation. On the world of Nirn, all was chaos. The only survivors of the 12 worlds of creation were the Elnophe and the Hist. The Elnophe are the ancestors of Mer and Men. The Hist are the trees of Ergonia. Nirn originally was all land, but with interspersed seas, but no oceans. A large fragment of the Elnophe world landed on Nirn relatively intact, and the Elnophe living there were the ancestors of the Mer. These Elnophe fortified their borders from the chaos outside, hid their pocket of calm, and attempted to live on as before. Other Elnophe arrived on Nirn scattered amid the confused jumble of the shattered worlds, wandering and finding each other over the years. Eventually, the wandering Elnophe found the hidden land of old Elnophe, and were amazed and joyful to find their kin living amid the splendor of ages past. The wandering Elnophe expected to be welcomed into the peaceful realm, but as old Elnophe looked on them as degenerates fallen from their former glory. For whatever reason, war broke out and raged across the whole of Nirn. The old Elnophe retained their ancient power and knowledge, but the Wanderers were more numerous and toughened by their long struggle to survive on Nirn. This war reshaped the face of Nirn, sinking much of the land beneath new oceans, and leaving the lands as we know them, Tamriel, Akavir, Atmora, and Yokuda. The old Elnophe realm, though ruined, became Tamriel. The remnants of the Wanderers were left divided on the other 3 continents. Over many years, the Elnophe of Tamriel became the Mer, elves, the Dwemer, the Deep Ones, also sometimes called dwarves, the Chimer, the Changed Ones, who later became the Dunmer, the Dark or Cursed Ones, the Dark Elves, the Bosmer, the Green or Forest Ones, the Wood Elves, the Altmer, the Elder or High Ones, the High Elves. On other continents, the wandering Elnophe became the Men, the Nords of Atmora, the Red Guards of Yokuda, and the Taske of Akavir. The Hists were bystanders in the Elnophe War, but most of their realm was destroyed as the war passed over it. A small corner of it survived to become Blackmarsh and Tamriel, but most of their realm sunk beneath the sea. Eventually, men returned to Tamriel. The Nords were the first, colonizing the northern coast of Tamriel before recorded history, led by the legendary Ysgramor. The 13th of his line, King Harold, was the first to appear in written history, and so the mythic era ended.
I may have possibly read this before, but I couldn't remember offhand. Says they're in combat.
Now you die! You will suffer greatly!
Drat. Alright, well I need to drop something. Katana. Funny thing is, I wasn't gonna take that gold if it was an NPC I could interact with.
The Wolf Queen, Book 4, by Wagan Jarth. From the pen of the 1st century, 3rd sage Montekai, 3rd era 109. 10 years after being crowned Emperor of Tamriel, Antiochus Septim had impressed his subjects with little but the enormity of his lust for carnal pleasures. By his second wife, Gisilla, he had a daughter in the year 104, who he named Kintira, after his great-great-great-grandaunt, the Empress. Enormously fat and marked by every venereal disease known to the healers, Antiochus spent little time on politics. His siblings, by marked contrast, excelled in this field. Magnus had married Helena, the Cyrodiil queen of Lilmoth, the Argonian priest king having been executed, and was representing the imperial interests in Black Marsh admirably. Severus and his wife, Bianchi, were ruling the Hammerfell kingdom of Gillane with a healthy brood of children, but no one was more politically active than Potema, the Wolf Queen of Skyrim Kingdom of Solitude. 9 years after the death of her husband, King Mantiarco, Potema still ruled as regent for her young son Uriel. Their court had become very fashionable, particularly for rulers who had a grudge to bear against the emperor. All of the kings of Skyrim visited Castle Solitude regularly, and over the years emissaries from the lands of Morrowind and High Rock did as well. Some guests came away from even further away. 3rd era 110. Potema stood at the harbor and watched the boat from Pyandinea arrive. Against the grey-breaking waves, where she had seen so many vessels of Tamraelic manufacture, it looked less than exotic. Insectoid, certainly with its membranous sails and rugged chitin hull, but she had seen similar, if not identical, seacraft in Morrowind. No, if not for the flag, which was markedly alien, she would not have picked out the ship from the others in the harbor. As the salty mist ballooned around her, she held out a hand in welcome to the visitors from another island empire. The men aboard were not merely pale, they were entirely colorless, as if their flesh were made from some white limpet jelly. But she had been forewarned. At the arrival of the king and his translator, she looked directly into their blank eyes and offered her hand. The king made noises. His great majesty, King Orgnum, said the translator haltingly, expresses his delight at your beauty. He thanks you for giving him refuge from these dangerous seas. You speak Cyrodiilic very well, said Potema. I am fluent in the languages of 4 continents, said the translator. I can speak to the denizens of my own country, Pyandinea, as well as those of Atmora, Akavir, and here in Tamriel. Yours is the easiest, actually. I was looking forward to this voyage. Please tell His Highness that he is welcome here, and that I am entirely at his disposal, said Potema, smiling. Then she added, You understand the context, that I am just being polite? Of course, said the translator, and then made several noises at the king, which the king reacted to with a smile. While they conversed, Potema looked up the dock and saw the now familiar grey cloaks watching her while they spoke with Levelet, Antiochus's man. The Psychic Order of Somerset Isle. Very bothersome. My diplomatic emissary, Lord Vulcan, will show you to your rooms, said Potema. Unfortunately, I have some other guests as well who require my attention. I hope your Great Majesty understands. His Great Majesty, King Orgnum, did understand, and Potema made arrangements to dine with the Pyandineans that evening. Meeting with the Psychic Order, meeting with the Psychic Order required all her concentration. She dressed in her simplest black and gold robe and went to her stateroom to prepare. Her son Uriel was on the throne, playing with his pet Jugat. Morning, Mom. Good morning, darling, said Potema, lifting her son in the air with feigned strain. I think that was strain. Talos, but you're heavy. I don't think I've ever carried such a heavy 10-year boy. That's probably because I'm 11, said Uriel, perfectly aware of his mother's tricks. And you're going to say, as an 11-year-old, I should probably be with my tutor. I was fanatical about studying at your age, said Potema. I am king, said Uriel petulantly. But don't be satisfied with that, said Potema. By all rights, you should be emperor already. You understand that, don't you? Uriel nodded his head. Potema took a moment to marvel at his likeness to the portraits of Tiber Septim. The same ruthless brow and powerful chin. When he was older and lost his baby fat, he'd be the spitting image of his great-great-great-great-granduncle. Behind her, she heard the door opening and an usher bringing in several gray cloaks. She stiffened slightly, and Uriel, on cue, jumped down from the throne and left the stateroom, pausing to meet the most important of the psychics. Good morning, Master Iakesis, he said, enunciating each syllable with a regal accent that made Potema's heart soar. I hope your accommodations at Castle Solitude meet with your approval. They do, King Uriel. Thank you, said Iakesis, delighted and charmed. Iakesis and his psychics entered the chamber, and the door was shut behind them. Potema sat for only a moment on the throne before stepping off the dais and greeting her guests. I'm so sorry to have kept you waiting, said Potema. To think that you sailed all the way from the Somerset Isles, and I should keep you waiting any longer. You must forgive me. It's not all that long of a voyage, said one of the grey cloaks angrily. It isn't as if we sailed all the way from Pyandanea. Ah, you've seen my most recent guests, King Orgnum and his retinue, said Potema breezily. I suppose you think it unusual, me entertaining them, as we all know that the Pyandaneans mean to invade Tamriel. You are, as I take it, neutral in this, as you are in all political matters? Of course, said Iakesis proudly. We have nothing to gain or lose by the invasion. The Psychic Order preceded the organization of Tamriel under the Septim dynasty, and we shall survive under any political regime. Rather like a flea on whatever mongrel happens along, are you? Said Potema, narrowing her eyes. Don't overestimate your importance, Iakesis. Your order's child, the Mages Guild, has twice the power you have, and they are entirely on my side. We are in the process of making an agreement with King Orgnum. When the Pyandaneans take over and I am in my proper place as Empress of this continent, then you shall know your proper place in the order of things. With a majestic stride, Potema left the stateroom, leaving the grey cloaks to look to from one to the other. We must speak with Lord Levelet, said one of the grey cloaks. Yes, said Iakesis, perhaps we should. Levelet was quickly found at his usual place at the Moon and Nausea Tavern. As the three grey cloaks entered, led by Iakesis, the smoke and noise seemed to die in their path. Even the smell of tobacco and flint dissipated in their wake. He rose and then escorted them to a small room upstairs. You've reconsidered, said Levelet with a broad smile. Your emperor, said Iakesis, and then corrected himself. Our emperor originally asked for our support in defending the west coast of Tamriel from the Pyandanean fleet in return for 12 million gold pieces. We offered our services at 50. Upon reflection of the dangers that the Pyandanean invasion would have, we accept his earlier offer. The Mages Guild has generously, perhaps as low as 10 million gold pieces, said Iakesis quickly. Over the course of dinner, Potema promised King Orgnum, through an interpreter, to lead an insurrection against her brother. She was delighted to discover that her capacity for lying worked in many different cultures. Potema shared her bed that night with King Orgnum, as it seemed the polite and diplomatic thing to do. As it turned out, he was one of the better lovers that she had ever had. He gave her some herbs before beginning that made her feel as if she was floating on the surface of time, conscious only of the gestures of love after she had found herself making them. She felt herself like the cooling mist, quenching the fire of his lust over and over and over again. In the morning, when he kissed her on the cheek and said with his bald white eyes that he was leaving her, she felt a stab of regret. The ship left harbor that morning, en route to the Somerset Isles and the imminent invasions. She waved them off to sea as she footsteps behind her. It was Levelet. I heard footsteps behind her. They will do it for 8 million, Your Highness, he said. Thank Mara, said Potema. I need more time for an insurrection. Pay them from my treasury, and then go to the Imperial City and get the 12 million from Antiochus. We should make a good profit on this game, and you, of course, will have your share. 3 months later, Potema heard that the fleet of the Pyandaneans had been utterly destroyed by a storm that appeared suddenly off the Isle of Artaeum, the home port of the Psychic Order. King Orgnum and all of his ships had been utterly annihilated. Sometimes making people hate you, she said, holding her son Uriel close, is how you make a profit.
Seems like there's quite a bit for us to do here still. So I think I've completed my circuit at this point. So there's at least an upper level. Worried about the misses and the damage, just because this will give me some chances to practice my my axe, as well as my... Rather surprised I can't open this. It'll let me practice my axe as well as my light armor and possibly my block. Now, I would also prefer to be able to increase my intelligence, but the best way to do that is alchemy, and I've decided that it's better for me to be able to carry as many items back to Pelmora, so that I can sell and then buy other ingredients, and then do all of my mixing at home. Now, as I'm going to be going on a fairly extended journey, seeing as I'm going to be on a fairly long journey, I might wind up leaving a few of the heavier items back home and then taking the alchemy gear with me. But we'll see. Great to carry, but I don't think I have the space for it. Oh, I don't think we had corpse preparation volume 1.
The Dragon Break re-examined by Fal Darun. The late Third Era was a period of remarkable religious ferment and creativity. The upheavals of the reign of Uriel VII were only the outward signs of the historic forces that would eventually lead to the fall of the Septim dynasty. The so-called Dragon Break was first proposed at this time by a wide variety of cults and fringe sects around the empire, connected only by the common obsession with the events surrounding Tiber Septim's rise to power, the founding myth, if you will, of the Septim dynasty. The basis of the Dragon Break doctrine is now known to be a rather prosaic error in the timeline printed by the otherwise authoritative Encyclopedia Tamrielica, first published in the Third Era 12. During the early years of Tiber Septim's reign, at the time, the archives of the Alinor were still inaccessible to human scholars, and the extant records from the Elysian period were extremely fragmentary. The Elysians had systematically burned all the libraries they could find, and their own records were largely destroyed during the War of Righteousness. The author of the Encyclopedia Tamrielica was apparently unfamiliar with the Elysian year, which their priesthood used to record all dates. We now know that this refers to the length of the long vision trances undertaken by the High Priestess, which might last anywhere from a few weeks to several months. Based on analysis of the surviving trance scrolls, as well as murals and friezes from the Elysian temples, I estimate that the Elysian Order actually lasted only about 150 years, rather than the famous 1008 years given by the Encyclopedia Tamrielica. The mystery of the millennial plus rule of the Elysians was accepted but unexplained until the spread of the Lorcan cults in the late Third Era, when the doctrine of the Dragon Break took hold. Because this dating and explanation was so widely held at the time and then repeated by historians down through today, it has come to have the force of tradition. Recall, however, that the Third Era historians were already separated from the Elysians by a gulf of more than 2,000 years, and history was still in its infancy, relying on the few archives from those early days. Today, modern archaeology and paleonumerology have confirmed what my own research in Elysian dating first suggested, that the Dragon Break was invented in the late Third Era based on a scholarly era fueled by obsession with the eschatology and Numidianism, and perpetuated by scholarly inertia.
Alright, I really need to find something to drop. I mean, I'd kind of like to keep the blade, but we can get rid of that. There will no doubt be other things I need to pick up, and it'll be an even more excruciating choice, but now sadly I don't remember the direction I was going. I think it might be this way. I'm gonna have to do something about it.
Your wounds are great. You will suffer greatly.
Looks like you guys are about as good with your bows as I am. So it seems that if I try and face them so that they can back up, they will. But if I'm facing them head on to a wall, they don't. So basically I was able to sort of corral that one guy. I was able to corral this guy towards his comrade.
You Enwa!
Doesn't really seem to be that much for me here. Given that I can rest and get an additional level, I will try and find a new area to rest rather than go back to one of the previous ones. I might be going the wrong way.
You in. There's no escape.
I may need to break out the ebony longsword at this point. It's just that weapon does a little too much damage. Levitation would be good, but again, I don't have the space for any of this. Oh, I forgot to read corpse preparation. I should do that in a minute.
The Rear Guard by Tenants Moral. The castle would hold, no matter the forces, the walls, Cascabel Hall would never fall. But that was small consolation for Menger. He was hungry. In fact, he had never been so hungry. The well in the atrium of the fortress supplied him with enough water to hold there until the Fourth Era, but his stomach reminded Menger minute to minute that he needed food. The wagon load of supplies mocked him. When his army, the forces of King of Solitude, had left Cascabel Hall, and he had manned the battlements as the rear guard to protect their retreat, they had left a wagon behind to supply him with enough food for months. It was not until the night after that they left that he inspected the larder and found that nothing edible was in the wagon. Trunk after trunk was filled with netch armor from the army's incursion into Morrowind. Apparently his Nord Confederates had assumed that the lightly opaque material was hardtack in aspic. If the Dunmer, whose caravan had been raided, knew about this, they would never be able to stop laughing. Menger thought that his fellow mercenary and kinswoman, Erin, would have found this amusing as well. She'd spoken with great authority about netch leather, being an expert on all sorts of light armor, but she'd also made a point to mention that it could not be eaten like other leather in occasions of hardship. It was a pity that she couldn't be there to enjoy the irony, Menger thought savagely. She'd returned to Morrowind even before the king's army had left, preferring a life as a wanted fugitive to a free existence in the cold of Skyrim. All the weeds in the courtyard had been devoured by the rearguard's 16th day manning Cascabel Hall. The entire castle had been scoured, rotten tubers in the mulch pile found and consumed, a dusty bouquet in the countess's bedchamber eaten, almost every rat and insect but the most cunning infesting the castle walls had been tracked down and gobbled up. The Castellan's chambers, filled with acrid and edible law books, had yielded a couple of crumbs of bread. Menger had even scrapped moss from the stones. There was no denying it. He would be dead from starvation before his army returned to break the ranks of the enemies who surrounded the fortress. The worst part, said Menger, who had taken to talking to himself on only the second day alone in the castle, is how close sustenance is. A vast arbor of golden apples stretched acre after acre near the castle walls. The sunlight cast a seductive gleam on the fruit, and the cruel wind carried sweet smells into Cascabel to torture him. Like most Bosmer, Mengur was an archer. He was a master of long and medium distance fighting, but in close quarters, as he would be if he dared to leave the castle and to enter the enemy camp in the arbor, he knew he would not last long. At some point, he knew that he would have to try, but he had been dreading the day. It was upon him now. Mengur put on the Netch armor for the first time, feeling the powdery, almost velvet texture of the rendered leather against his skin. There was also a barely perceptible throb, which he recognized as the remnant nematocysts of the Netch's venomous flesh, still tingling months after its death with domesticated poison. The combination made him feel energized. Aaron had just described the sensation perfectly, just as she had explained how to defend himself while wearing Netch leather armor. Under the cover of night, Mengur crept out of the black gate of the castle, locking it behind him with a rather cumbersome key. He made for the arbor as quietly as he could, but a passing sentry coming from behind a tree saw him. Remaining calm, Mengur did as he remembered Aaron had instructed, only moving after the attack had been launched. The sentry's blade glided against the armor and knocked to the left, throwing the young man off balance. That was the trick as he understood it. You had to be prepared to be hit and merely move with the blow, allowing the membranous armor to divert the injury away. Use your enemy's momentum against him, as Aaron used to say. There were several more close encounters in the arbor, but each swing of an axe and each thrust of a sword found purchase elsewhere. With handfuls of apples, Mengur ran the gauntlet back to the castle. He locked the back gate door behind him and fell into an orgy of eating. For week after week, the Bosmer stole out to gather his food. The guards began anticipating his raids, but he kept his schedule irregular and always remembered when attacked to wait for the blow, accept it, and then turn. In such a way, he lived and survived his lonely vigil in Cascabel Hall. 4 months later, he was preparing for another seizure of apples. Mengur heard a loud clamor at the front gate. Surveying the group from a safe distance on the battlements, he saw the shields of the King of Solitude, his ally, the Count of Cascabel, and their enemy, the King of Faerun. Evidently, a truce had been called. Mengur opened the gates, and the combined armies flooded the courtyard. Many of the knights of Faerun sought to shake the hand of the man that they had named the Shadow of the Arbor, expressing their admiration for his defensive skills and apologizing good-naturedly for their attempts to slay him. Only doing their job, you know. There's hardly an apple left on the vine, said the King of Solitude. Well, I started on the edges and worked my way in, explained Mengur. I brought back extra fruit to tempt the rats out of the walls so I could have a little meat as well. I spent the last several months working out the details of the truce, said the king. Really quite exhausting. At any rate, the Count will be taking back possession of the castle now, but there was a small detail that we need to work out. You're a mercenary, and as such responsible for your own expenses. If you had been a subject of mine, things might be different, but there are certain old rules of law that must be respected. Mengur anticipated the strike. The problem is, the king continued, you've taken a good deal of the Count's crops while here. By any reasonable computation, you've eaten an amount equal and likely exceeding your mercenaries' wages. Obviously, I would not want to penalize you for the excellent job you've done defending the castle in uncomfortable circumstances, but you agree that it's important that we observe the old rules of law, don't you? Of course, replied Mengur, accepting the blow. Delighted to hear that, said the king. Our estimation is that you owe the Count of Cascabel 37 imperial gold, which I'll gladly pay to myself with interest after the autumn-tide harvest, said Mengur. There is more left on the vine than you suggest. The Kings of Solitude and Faerun and the Count of Cascabel stared at the Bosmer. We've agreed to abide by the strictest old rules of the law, and I've had time to read a great many books over the time that you were making your truce. In the Third Era, 246, during the reign of Uriel IV, the Imperial Council, in an attempt to clear up some questions of property rights in Skyrim during those chaotic days, decreed that any man without a liege who occupied a castle for more than 3 months would be granted the rights and titles of that estate. It's a good law, of course, meant to discourage absent and foreign landlords. Mengur smiled, feeling the now familiar sensation of a glancing strike diverting. By the rule of law, I am the Count of Cascabel. The rearguard sons still hold the title of the Count of Cascabel, and he grows the finest, most delectable apples in the Empire.
I like that story quite a bit. Oh, this is one I definitely want to take if I can, but I don't think I have any room. Oh boy. Of course, now I'm regretting not bringing the alchemy tools. Could have made a healing potion at this point.
You've ascended to level 18. The challenge now is to stay at the peak as long as you can. You may be as strong today as any mortal who's ever walked the earth, but there's always someone younger, a new challenger.
So, there is a side of me that wants to do personality over intelligence, but on this one I'm gonna keep going to get more magicka. I do think, though, I will invest quite a bit on trying to, just in case I mess something up, I'm going to invest quite a bit into alchemy when I get back to Balmora. Should have done this sooner. Maybe not. As much as I would like the practice. Yes, I forgot with the extra strength I also get more carrying space. I won't go crazy with it because I have other opportunities still, but
Die, Fetcher! Now you die!
just use this to heal after. Don't do enough damage on my own.
You
heavy stuff to drop anymore. No, what's that doing in there? Solves a little bit of the problem. Yeah, the weapons are non-negotiable. If I have to, I'll drop some of these. This isn't really gonna solve anything. Forgot to read this.
On the preparation of the corpse, Volume 1, the acquisition of the corpse. While the arts of necromancy are only illegal in the province of Morrowind, few citizens of the Empire have an enlightened view of our art, thus the acquisition of corpses on which to experiment is often difficult. In Cyrodiil, a few necromancers who have served the Empire are given the corpses of criminals and traitors to use legally. The provinces, this provides those who have acquired such a post with a fresh supply of corpses, most of them young, strong, and intact. In Morrowind, the outlawing of necromancy would make its practice impossible were it not for the fortunate institution of slavery. While the temple will investigate obvious signs of necromancy, such as hastily emptied graves or ash stolen from one of their ash pits, a careful and discreet necromancer can thrive in Morrowind by taking slaves at a modest rate. Most will assume that the slave escaped or died in the ashlands. Finding suitable corpses in Blackmarsh is nearly impossible due to their rapid decay. There are also diseases, Argonian tribesmen, and other difficulties that must be dealt with. I know of only a few slowed necromancers who operate successfully in Blackmarsh, and even they stay near the coast. While the forests of elsewhere pose some of the same problems as those of Blackmarsh, the deserts preserve corpses for hundreds of years in the way that requires very little preparation. Khajiit of the desert tribes are often buried with only a small cairn of stones, which are easy to find and uncover. The Khajiit show remarkably enlightened indifference to the graves being uncovered. It is said that in the port of Senchal, one may purchase anything one desires. This is true if you desire fresh corpses. While a few Bosmer perform Archae's rituals when burying the dead, the more primitive Bosmer still practice cannibalism upon their enemies, which reduces the number of available corpses. As would be expected from such backwards people, they have an intolerance of necromancy that goes beyond all reason. Many necromancers who practice our arts in Valenwood become one with the trees themselves. Somerset Isle is even worse in some ways. Some Altmer, born into the most respected and scholarly families, are actually allowed to study the dead in the open. Their research, however, seems to be centered on finding ways to extend their lives even further than the more practical uses of our art. A necromancer of any other race seen caught in Somerset Isle can expect the worst possible punishments. In Hammerfell, where worship of Archae is strongest, the dead are almost always subject to Archae's law. There are exceptions after large battles or in remote areas where death occurs far from the meddlesome priests. Fortunately, the dangerous terrain and creatures in the deserts and mountains of Hammerfell makes the acquisition of corpses possible, though they are often in poor condition and require special care and preparation. The newly formed Orsinium presents a unique opportunity. As you know, orc corpses are among the most sought after for the durability of the skin and the strength of their bones. If King Gortwog will listen to reason, we could offer our services of our art in defense of his young nation in exchange for disposing of the orcish dead. A mutually beneficial arrangement, as I'm sure the orcs will agree. To this end, a delegation has been sent to Orsinium, though we have not yet heard any words on the state of these negotiations. In my native High Rock, traditions dating back to the Witch Kings and nomadic horsemen mandate cremation of the dead. This is practiced almost without exception in the north, though an imperial burial in a tomb or a city cemetery is far more common in the south. There are still many corpses easily taken from the battlefields in the War of Bettany and the lawless times that followed. There are even rumors that King Gothred of Daggerfall may institute the imperial practice of donating the corpses of criminals for necromantic study as a deterrent to the bandits and pirates that still threaten the Iliac Bay. In Skyrim, the cold weather and isolated terrain allow a few necromancers to operate freely. Alas, the availability of corpses is limited to Nords who die from exposure or in battle. While the cold is preservative, the snow makes these corpses difficult to find. More research dedicated to the magical detection of corpses would be invaluable to the necromancers of Skyrim. The Slode are the most famous necromancers, but little is known of their native Thras. In Tamriel, Slode only practice necromancy on other races. It is uncertain whether it is true in Thras as well. If so, it would explain the number of slaves that are purchased in Tyr by Slode merchants, and the rumors of Slode's airships carrying corpses from Senchal. These difficulties lead many necromancers to create their own corpses. While I prefer to work with those who have died a natural death, a more expedient approach is sometimes necessary to further the study of the art. While the arts of necromancy can be practiced on animals, such experiments rarely produce interesting results. The servant's ability to follow directions seems to be related to the subject's intelligence in life. While raising the corpse of a man, elf, or beastman can prove a useful servant, the corpses of animals produce mere guard dogs at best. Often a raised animal is unable to distinguish its master from the rest of the living, and many amateur practitioners have been torn apart by the animal servants they created. Let such stories be a lesson to you.
Alright, I think I'm still over. Yep. So I have to, I'll get rid of the gloves, I guess. Those eggs are gonna get my inventory for sure. Yep. Again, these materials will become very helpful when we do get back to Belmore. I will admit I'm a little surprised if that's all, but I might have this wrong. So we'll do one more circuit just to be sure. Time is at 7. It'll probably be dark out, but let's try and do our best to get to our goal. Alright, that really was it. fastest route out, I would be going the other way, but again, I just want to make sure that I'm not leaving anything too desirable on the table. Alright, so the sooner I can head south, the happier I'll be. Alternatively, I just see what I can get. Quite unarmored. Oh. I know why. That's why I dropped all that armor. Alright, well, I'll buy some more when I'm back in Balmora. This isn't the right way. Alright, well, while I'm here, I'll go and get my stuff back. I think it's just a chess piece and a pauldron that I'm missing. Doesn't mean I'm going to have to make some decisions in terms of my my inventory, though. All right. Problem is, I don't remember if this is a common disease or not. It is not. And I don't have enough mana for Blight. Obviously, I got this wrong. Oh, wait, that's right. There was a room just to the side. Probably not this one, though. don't think it's this one. No. I remember it was one of these barrels that I put it in. I think it was the second to last room that I was in, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I can't remember where I was in relation to the entrance, so I'm just going to keep going in the circle until I get to it. Paid off that time. Alright, so I do want to go south. I don't want to go over the mountain, though. Should be careful of this because I'm also probably going to wind up taking some of the crab meat, assuming I find them. Losing everything. Really? Gnaar Mok is that what you say? Ah, I need to stop taking this, Okay, this makes a little more sense. One big dilemma is I don't really want to miss the opportunity to, I don't want to miss the opportunity to get some good materials. Alright, well I got the mud crabs, but it's not clear that I've satisfied any kind of condition for it. Maybe I'll be able to take like the crab meat tour or something. Ah. Again, I'm willing to do this because it's all stuff that will, it's all stuff that I'm going to be able to turn into, intelligence points. Just trying to see if there's anything that indicates the number. Okay, so clearly it is a quest, but I don't know if I've done anything about it. think as well. Alright, I'm gonna run on the assumption that that's it for the mud crabs and we've done what we need to do. Unbelievable. Okay, so I can't lose any weapons. A couple of these I can afford to lose if it really comes down to it. Just want to make sure that there is anything too heavy that I have in my potions. Alright, now ideally I'd like to be selling these things rather than dumping them. Greater Soldier is probably the easier one for me to pull back though. Can afford to take exactly one, then I need to start selling stuff. How are we for gold? Pretty good. Really? Problem is, I don't know what a breeding match is. Alright, well here's what I'm gonna do first. There we go. So I'm not quite ready to fast travel because I need to go back to the person who gave me the quest originally. But at the very least here I should be able to unload a few of my items. Even if I don't get a great price for them, it's better than nothing.
Got the blight disease, Outlander. Get away from me and get cured. Or stay away from me.
Ruthren's shack. Nobody wants to help me. Alright, there isn't much in terms of services, so I think we're just gonna have to do our business and get out of here.
Leave me.
Got blight disease, Outlander. Get away from me, go get cured, and stay away from me.
Oh, for God's sake.
Spit it out or hit the road.
The reason I went to cool was because... Oh, wait a minute, that may not work. Because, yeah, Alvalothi doesn't actually get me where I need to go. Well, I've potentially really gone and done it.
Isn't there someone else you can talk to?
Just have something a little experimental I'm gonna try.
Die, Fetcher. It's approaching.
All right, now. It's 10 points of magicka. No, but I only have dread. this might work. It's a miracle.
Yes, Outlander?
I don't believe I've seen a dark elf with such a ground outfit in some time. Can I help you?
What services are there?
If you're a House Lalu retainer or kin, get your services at Arnheim Manor. If you're a guild, then you want Waterku, Balan, or Hindad at the Drag Jigger's Rest. You might get some services at Nadine Rothran's shack, and you might not.
I suppose I could spare a moment.
Let's try the manor first.
So good to see you.
I'm Drevis Salvini, and this is Gnaar Mok, and you're Caius? Fine, that's all taken care of. Now why don't you tell me what you want?
Not worth it. What kind of services do you know about?
Greetings, Outlander. Don't I know you from somewhere?
I believe I've seen a dark elf in such a ground outfit in some time. Can I help you?
Who are you?
You may call me Dreus Berno. What I do is my own affair.
What about House Lalu?
Yes, we are both belong to House Lalu. Are you here to discuss business?
Apparently not.
Everyone's worried about those two breeding netch that have been attacking. That's right, there's a pair of them that wander about north of here. They've come down near the town a few times. We drove them off, but I'm sure they'll be back unless someone does something.
I believe I have.
I'm Alms Arnheim. Never seen you here before. First time in Gnaar Mok then. Let me give you a little advice. We aren't used to visitors here, and we don't like what we aren't used to, so don't be surprised if people don't like answering a lot of questions. But you seem an okay sort, so if you're looking for someone in particular, or looking for services, or a specific place, then go ahead and ask.
None of this is what I want. This really isn't much for services, is it?
You're in Gnaar Mok. Go ahead. You ask the questions, I'll do the answering.
Yeah, that's
Is
fine.
there something...
How odd they would say that I could find services here.
Three blessings.
If you want something, now's the time to talk.
Alright, let's try and unload whatever I can. So I only got 150, so it won't be very profitable, but... well, that gives me some wriggle room.
What day is today?
Well, this was a start.
I will listen, Outlander, but make it quick.
Go away, Outlander. An Outlander is anyone born and raised outside of Morrowind. You and the Kimona Tong don't like Outlanders. Thank you for asking.
Tell me about the Kimona Tong, then.
We're Dunmer, and we're proud. We're tired of seeing Morrowind run by outsiders who understand nothing about Morrowind.
Let's talk about that Khajiit you've been bothering, then.
Never heard of her, and none of your business if I did. So blow like smoke, or I'll spill you like a baby's cup. Spoke to Darren Endrin about Anisi, but he said he never heard of her, and that it wasn't any of my business anyway. Then he threatened me and told me to go away.
I'm not really sure. I think if I start a fight, that's just gonna end badly for me because I'm gonna get attacked. Maybe... let's see what else I can get here. Armor repairs would be nice, obviously, but... why not?
The House of Troubles. Sorry, just 1 second. I think I need a sip of water. Among the ancient ancestral spirits who accompanied Saint Veloth and the Chimer into the promised land of Morrowind, the 4 Daedra lords, Malekith, Merinus-Dagon, Molag-Bal, and Shegarath, also known as the Four Corners of the House of Troubles, are known as the Four Corners of the House of Troubles. These Daedra lords rebelled against the council and admonition of the tribunal, causing great kin strife and confusion among the clans and great houses. Malekith, Merinus-Dagon, Molag-Bal, and Shegarath are holy in that they serve the role of obstacles during the testing. Through time, they have sometimes become associated with local enemies, like the Nords, Akaviri, or mountain orcs. Malakath is the reanimated dung that was Trinimac. Malakath is the weak but vengeful god. The Dark Elves say that he is Malak, the god king of the orcs. He tests the Dunmer for physical weaknesses. Molag-Bal is, in Morrowind, the king of rape. He tries to upset the bloodlines of the houses and otherwise ruin the Dunmer gene pool. A race of monsters said to live in Molag-Amur were a result of his seduction of Vivek during the previous era.
I think I've actually read this one before.
Shigarath is the king of madness. He always tests the Dunmer for mental weaknesses.
Sorry, 1 second here.
Shegarath, the king of madness, he always tests Dunmer for mental weakness. In many legends, he is called upon by one Dunmer faction against another. In half of these stories, he does not betray those who called him, further confusing the issue of his place in the scheme of things. Can he help us? Is he not an obstacle? He's often associated with the fear other races have of the Dunmer, especially those who, like the Empire, might prove as useful allies. Merinus-Dagon is the god of destruction. He is associated with natural dangers like fire, earthquakes, and floods. To some, he represents the inhospitable land of Morrowind. He tests the Dunmer will to survive and persevere. The worship of these 4 malevolent spirits is against the law and practice of the temple. However, the Four Corners seldom fail to discover those greedy, reckless, or mad enough to serve them. By ancient temple law and custom, and also by imperial law, the lives of witches and warlocks are forfeit, and imperial garrisons join ordinators and buoyant armigers of the temple in tracking down and destroying these foul covens in the wilderness, refugees in ancient ruins where they conceal their profane worships. If you can just give me a quick second, I need to just calm down before I, or not like choke to death. Okay.
Where's that slave? Here not long ago.
Still want to see what's going on with Anisi.
You must be hard of hearing, and soon you'll be hard of breathing.
All right.
I have you.
Let me back up. see what's happening. They're punching me and I don't have any stamina. Oh my god. And I actually don't have any, I don't have anything to restore my fatigue.
Your life's end is approaching!
And I will end your pain.
Alright, well, that's a little embarrassing.
Under sun and sky, Outlander, we greet you warmly.
No repairs, it looks like. So before I deal with this guy, I definitely need some kind of a repair. Oh, I lost a bunch of progress. Okay, well, first things first, let's just try and sell off the items that we can find.
May you find all that you seek, traveler.
Do you have something to say?
Under sun and sky.
What do you want, Outlander?
Again, just allowing for the possibility that I might have missed someone.
3
before.
blessings. Under sun and sky, Outlander.
Under sun and sky, Outlander, we greet you.
Anytime you're ready.
If you want
Just
something,
keep me
now's the time to talk.
I wonder if he has anything to repair with. Not really. Oh, and I already cleaned him out. Oh, so I did free up the space. Did I buy the book? No, apparently I didn't.
Speak, traveler.
Oh, interesting. He doesn't mind the moon sugar, but he won't buy it. Oh well.
Probably nothing.
So I'd like to try and see if I can find a place to repair before I do anything else. This is partly for training as much as anything else. there isn't any kind of repair in the immediate area, but this probably isn't a good idea for me to be investigating right now. Yeah, I mean, I have no idea how I get back out of this, but
You in.
I feel rather bad that I'm only giving this the most superficial look, but obviously there's nothing stopping me from switching out the different types of armor as well. Should try and take a closer look to see if there's something available to me. Okay, this thing is too good. Oh, this can't be good. I didn't even see what got me. Well, I'm done for again. Let's see if I can get a little clever about this. No. No, I cannot. I think at this point, let's focus on the ebony sword. I won't learn anything I'll stop taking unnecessary damage in the form of, not being armored. I was hoping this would have been a quick trip. Well, we're here now, so I'll try and get what I can out of it, but I might have to leave it. Huh. I think I quite understand the layout of this place. Alright, so let me see if I can make some sense out of this. So we know we go deeper to the right. Alright, so I just came from there. Wait a minute. This layout doesn't make any sense to me. So it feels like it goes in a circle. Anyways. You know, if this was Dwemer Ruins, at least I would be getting, repair tongs. case I came in. Alright, now I'm actually gonna have to deal with the problem of how I get back. I can levitate as a last resort. But before I do that, I'm gonna finish exploring this area. Definitely went there. I should have saved earlier. Oh wow, that was a lot of lost progress actually. Unbelievable. Alright. I'm sorry to do this, but it's quite late, so I know I'm not going to get through to the end of this, and I'm still looking for a place to repair, so I'm going to call it a little bit early here, and we will finish this dungeon and move on to the next parts next week. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.